Russia just legalized Bitcoin, and it is still illegal to buy a coffee with it. Both of those are on purpose, and the reason is not the one you are thinking. This is a 300-page law signed in August, live from the 1st of September. It covers exchanges, custody, mining, investor protection. And the more of it you read, the clearer it gets that almost none of it was written for the people who live there. The law is called On Digital Currencies and Digital Rights, and parts of it read like a wish list. Licensed exchanges, regulated custody, courts that will actually hear your case if someone steals your coins, rules instead of raids. Which raises an awkward comparison. The United States has been trying to pass its own crypto rulebook, the Clarity Act, for over a year. It is still not law. Russia started later and finished first. That is not a story about efficiency. The facts are unusually clean. The Duma passed it on the 21st of July. The president signed it on the 4th of August. Core provisions switch on the 1st of September, and the rest phases in across the following year, which you can read on screen faster than I can say it. The part that matters is who sits on top. The Bank of Russia writes the detailed rules. The Bank of Russia decides which crypto assets a licensed intermediary is even allowed to offer you. A regulator that chooses what appears on the menu is not refereeing a market. It is curating one. And curators have taste, budgets, and instructions. So what does the law give an ordinary Russian saver? You may buy crypto. First, you pass a suitability test. Then, you may only buy assets the regulator has approved as sufficiently liquid. And you may buy at most 300,000 rubles worth per intermediary per year, roughly $4,000. Qualified investors, who also take a test, face no cap at all and may buy anything, and the ban that matters most did not move. You still cannot legally pay for goods and services with crypto inside Russia. Not a coffee, not a car, nothing. Which is a strange thing to leave untouched in a law that half the internet is calling legalization. You can now legally own the asset. You cannot legally use it for the one thing money is for. Hold that image. Because 5,000 kilometers away, the country with the loudest crypto industry on Earth has a rulebook too. It passed one chamber a year ago with a large bipartisan majority. Then it stopped. We will come back to why. And the why is worse than gridlock. Follow the lorry. Since 2022, sanctions have cut Russian companies out of large parts of the Western banking system. Payments that used to take a wire transfer started taking months, intermediaries, and luck. From 2024, Russia ran an experimental regime allowing crypto in cross-border settlement. The new law makes that permanent and gives it a legal skeleton. Then look at the cold wallets. Under the new framework, self-custody is broadly reserved for participants in foreign economic activity and unrestricted only outside Russia. The people allowed to hold their own keys are the people the state needs to move value across a border. Domestically, crypto is a small investment product on a short leash. Internationally, it is infrastructure. That is not a contradiction in the law. That is the design. And once you see it, the retail cap stops looking like the main event and starts looking like a side effect of something much larger happening on the other side of the fence. Russia already ran this experiment without a law, and it is worth knowing how it went. In early 2025, a ruble-pegged stablecoin called a 7A5 launched from Kyrgyzstan, backed by deposits at a sanctioned Russian bank, majority owned by a fugitive under Western sanctions. It was engineered without a freeze function because the previous workhorse of sanctioned Russian crypto flows was Tether, and Tether can freeze tokens when American authorities ask. By January 2026, the analytics firm Elliptic counted more than $100 billion in cumulative on-chain transactions in under a year. It became the largest non-dollar stablecoin in the world. Then the sanctions arrived. The United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union targeted it in waves. Uniswap blacklisted the token. The exchange where nearly all its liquidity lived collapsed after a breach that took customer funds with it. And the European Union's 19th sanctions package did something it had never done before. It banned dealings in one specific token outright. And there is one number that tells you whether any of this worked, whether sanctions can actually reach a system built specifically to be out of reach. So how much of that $100 billion machine is still running? Before we answer that, the other rulebook, because there is one line in the American bill that almost no senator wants to be recorded voting on. The Digital Asset Market Clarity Act passed the House of Representatives in July 2025, 294 votes to 134, every Republican and 78 Democrats. In American crypto policy, that is close to a miracle. Then it went to the Senate. Committees approved their versions. On the 1st of June 2026, the bill was placed on the Senate calendar, formally eligible for a floor vote. And then, for 2 months, nothing happened at all. On the 8th of August, leadership finally filed a cloture motion, not a vote on the law, a vote about whether to begin debating the law. The Senate then left for recess. It returns on the 14th of September with 3 working weeks before a midterm campaign swallows the calendar. So the American bill has been alive for over a year, has won a large bipartisan majority in one chamber, and has still never once been put to a vote in the other. The friction has names. 3 disputes have stalled the bill. Whether stablecoin issuers may pay yield which pits the crypto industry against the banks. What powers law enforcement yin over digital assets? And the line nobody wants on the record. An ethics provision restricting senior government officials up to and including the president from backing crypto projects. 60 votes are needed to move forward in the Senate. 60 means Democratic support. Democratic support means an ethics deal. So a crypto market structure bill is currently hostage to a question about who is allowed to own tokens while holding office. Meanwhile, American regulators have not waited. The Genius Act already set federal stablecoin rules, and the securities and commodities regulators kept moving, which works right up until an election changes. Who runs the agencies? A law is slow because a law is hard to undo. Everything the agencies build instead can be unbuilt by whoever holds the pen next. Now, the number, how much of A7A5 survived. Analytics firms put average daily volume down roughly 96% from its 2025 peak to tens of millions a day. The issuer says analysts undercount decentralized activity and claims figures above 200 million daily. Those numbers cannot both be right, and both sides have an obvious interest in their own figure. So here is the honest answer. Nobody watching from outside knows, and anyone who tells you they do is selling something. The bot has been building a filing cabinet for every regulation this channel has covered. It has run out of drawers. Subscribing is the cheapest way to make sure the next one arrives. The duck remains unconvinced. Which brings us to the fair version of the other side. And it is stronger than crypto commentators usually admit. Russia's law does real protective work. Before it, a Russian holding crypto had almost no legal standing. Now there is judicial protection for holders, licensed custody with ownership records, and a public registry. So you can tell a real exchange from a hole in the internet. Banks must refuse transfers to suspected unauthorized exchange operators. And suitability tests and purchase caps are not exotic authoritarianism. The European Union does versions of the same thing. Retail investors genuinely do lose money to leverage and to tokens with no liquidity. A cap is a blunt tool, and blunt tools sometimes work. If you had told a Russian crypto holder in 2021 that a court would one day hear their case, they would have taken that deal without reading the rest. One detail reframes all of it. The 1st of September 2026 is not only when the crypto law switches on, it is also a milestone in the rollout of the digital ruble, Russia's central bank digital currency, with new obligations landing for major banks and large retailers on the same date. Read those together. On one morning, a state grants capped access to a technology it cannot control, while scaling a payment system it controls completely. The crypto lane is for the border. The digital ruble lane is for the citizen. A government that wanted its people using crypto would have opened the wide lane. It opened the other one, and it opened it on the same morning, which is a coincidence nobody should be asked to believe in. So who got clarity? The Russian state did. It knows exactly what it wants crypto to be. Speed in lawmaking is not a measure of quality. It is a measure of how few people had to be persuaded. So when a country passes a crypto law quickly, the useful question is never whether the rules are good. It is who the rules are for. Answer it for your own country. 5 words or fewer in the comments, and the sharpest one gets pinned. And if you want the piece America did finish, the genius act is stranger than this whole story. That is the drawer above.